Napoleon Hill. Success begins the moment you decide. There comes a moment in every life when the noise of the world fades into the background and a single, quiet decision changes everything. It doesn't arrive with a parade. It doesn't announce itself. It begins as a whisper, the whisper of a soul tired of standing still. And in that whisper is the seed of a revolution. Napoleon Hill once wrote, "Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve." But the world has forgotten the power of a decision. We celebrate the outcome, but not the moment the fire was lit. Every empire, every invention, every victory began with a single human being daring to decide that their life would no longer be ordinary. Thomas Edison decided. He decided that darkness would no longer rule the night. He didn't wait for perfect conditions. He didn't ask for permission. He turned the chaos of his failures into the bricks of his legacy. Henry Ford decided. When the world laughed at his dream of an automobile for the common man, he didn't flinch. His decision became an industry. Walt Disney decided. He was told he lacked imagination. He built an empire of dreams that still touches millions. Decisions are not wishes. They are declarations. When a human being decides with absolute conviction, the universe rearranges itself around that will. There's a moment when the timid heart becomes a warrior, when excuses are stripped away and the soul stands alone with destiny. That is the true birth of success, not the spotlight, not the applause, but that silent private oath, "I will." The tragedy is that most never reach that point. They live in a gray world of maybe, of someday, of I hope so. They wait for the perfect timing that never arrives. They wait for the fear to vanish, for the stars to align. And in their waiting, life passes. Success does not belong to those who wait. It belongs to those who decide while their knees are still shaking. It belongs to those who step forward even when their voice trembles. Decision is the gatekeeper. It separates the dreamers from the doers, the spectators from the builders. Every monument of human achievement began with one soul, one choice, one spark. But decision without belief is like planting a seed in stone. It will never grow. This is why Napoleon Hill obsessed over the power of belief, not blind optimism, not wishful thinking, but a burning conviction that your vision is real long before the world recognizes it. When Edison was asked about his 10,000 failures, he didn't flinch. He said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That is not the language of hope. That is the language of belief. Belief transforms a decision from a fleeting impulse into an unstoppable force. It gives your choice weight. It gives it momentum. It becomes the invisible engine behind every action, every sacrifice, every sleepless night. Without belief, decisions crumble under pressure. With belief, they grow stronger in the storm. Every person who changed history stood at the crossroads of doubt and decision. Lincoln faced a nation tearing itself apart. He decided to lead with principle, not popularity. Carnegie faced a world that didn't believe in rags to riches stories. He decided to write his own. These were not superhumans. They were individuals who understood one eternal law. The moment you decide, truly decide, the path reveals itself. But this isn't about them. This is about you. There is a part of you that knows you were born for more than mediocrity. You can feel it in the quiet moments when the world isn't distracting you. You can sense it in the fire behind your ribs, the unshakable whisper that says, "This isn't the end of your story." That whisper is not fantasy. It's your potential calling you home. The mind is a forge. Every thought is molten metal, waiting to be shaped into reality. When you decide, you take the hammer into your own hands. You shape destiny instead of being shaped by it. That's why most never become great, because it's easier to be shaped by the world than to forge your own. But no empire was ever built by the passive. No legend ever emerged from hesitation. The world will not give you permission to rise. It will not clear the path for you. It will test your resolve. It will throw storms at your feet and doubt into your ears. But if your decision is pure, if your belief is unshakable, those storms become your training ground. Napoleon Hill wrote his philosophy during the darkest economic era of the modern world, the Great Depression. Millions were broken, but he didn't preach despair. He preached power. He showed that success isn't born in prosperity. It is forged in adversity. When everything is against you, the decision to rise is worth more than gold. Success begins the moment you decide, and it grows the moment you believe. But belief alone isn't enough. It demands clarity, the kind of clarity that turns vague desires into concrete visions. A decision is the match, belief is the flame, but clarity is the torch that lights the way forward. When your vision is blurry, doubt creeps in. When your goals are fogged, your energy scatters. Clarity is the sword that cuts through uncertainty. Ford didn't vaguely want to make something. He saw the car before it existed. Disney didn't vaguely want to entertain. He saw a kingdom of imagination before the first brick was laid. Your future is shaped not by chance, but by clarity of purpose. If you cannot see it in your mind, you will never hold it in your hands. Clarity is power. It sharpens your mind like a blade. It removes the fog that keeps so many trapped in circles. When you know exactly what you want, the world's noise becomes irrelevant. Distractions lose their grip, opinions lose their weight, and doubt loses its voice. Think of the great builders of history. They didn't wander through life hoping to stumble upon greatness. They carved their destinies with surgical precision. Edison didn't say, "I hope to invent something someday." He saw the light before the world saw the bulb. Henry Ford didn't say, "Maybe I'll build something that moves." He envisioned millions of ordinary people driving automobiles. That clarity was his compass through storms, through failure, through ridicule. When you possess a crystal clear vision, something extraordinary happens. Resistance bends to your will, not because the path becomes easier, but because your conviction becomes unshakable. When Napoleon Hill spoke of definiteness of purpose, he wasn't offering a poetic phrase. He was revealing the foundation of empires. Purpose is the invisible force that keeps a human being standing when everything else is falling apart. A man with no purpose drifts like a leaf in the wind, tossed around by other people's opinions, trapped in the maze of uncertainty. But a man with a definite purpose becomes like a river. Even if mountains stand in his way, he carves a path through stone. Purpose gives your decision direction. It turns raw energy into targeted force. And this is where most people fail. Not because they lack intelligence, not because they lack talent, but because they have never defined what they truly want. They chase vague dreams with half-hearted effort, then wonder why the world remains unmoved. Success doesn't answer to vague whispers. It responds to the roar of clarity. Purpose is not found in comfort. It is forged in reflection, in silence, in the still moments where you strip away the masks you wear for the world and confront the truth of who you are and what you were born to do. Hill believed that every individual has the power to choose their purpose, to design their destiny with intention. But vision without discipline is like a compass without traveler. Discipline is the bridge between intention and manifestation. It is the daily, silent war waged against excuses. It's the 5 a.m. alarm when no one is watching. It's the quiet rejection of the easy path. It's the decision to build when everyone else is sleeping. Andrew Carnegie didn't build his empire because he was the most brilliant man alive. He built it because his discipline was relentless. He knew what he wanted, and every day was a calculated step toward that goal. Ford's assembly line wasn't genius overnight. It was discipline, refined over years of ruthless consistency. Discipline is not glamorous. It doesn't come with applause. It doesn't give you dopamine rushes. It's cold, it's repetitive, it's lonely. But it is in those silent repetitions, in those uncelebrated hours, that greatness is born. Success does not come to those who want it most. It comes to those who work for it longest. And here lies the brutal truth. The world doesn't care about your dreams. It only respects your results. But results are not born from talent or luck alone. They are forged in the furnace of disciplined action. Hill called this organized planning, the art of translating a definite purpose into a practical plan and then executing it with unwavering persistence. Action is the alchemy that transforms thought into reality. A decision without action is a wish. A vision without action is a fantasy. Discipline without action is wasted potential. The universe does not reward intentions. It rewards movement. Walt Disney was fired for lacking imagination. Ford went bankrupt multiple times. Edison failed 10,000 experiments. But they moved. They acted. They persisted. Each action, no matter how small, carved a deeper groove into the path of destiny. Most people dream at night and doubt in the morning. They let fear talk them out of their own potential. But action silences fear. Every step forward weakens doubt's grip. The key is not to wait for the right moment. The key is to move and let the moment be born from movement. Understand this deeply. The path is not revealed before you begin. It is revealed because you begin. When you act with purpose, doors appear where walls once stood. The world bends to the will of those who refuse to stop. Napoleon Hill interviewed the titans of his time, Carnegie, Rockefeller, Edison, Ford, and he found one common thread woven into their stories. Not intelligence, not luck, not privilege. It was decision followed by relentless action. Each of them had every reason to quit. Each of them faced ridicule, bankruptcy, rejection, and failure, but they kept walking. And because they walked, the path was written beneath their feet. And here's the truth that separates the average from the extraordinary. Discipline is not a feeling. It is a commitment. You do not need to feel ready. You do not need to feel inspired. Discipline is the choice to honor your purpose even when your emotions rebel against it. Think of the mountain climber halfway up a storm. The wind howls. The path grows dangerous. Doubt whispers, "Turn back." But discipline speaks louder. Keep moving. That is how legends are made, not in the comfort of certainty, but in the furnace of persistence. Every empire you admire was built by people who refused to let their emotions dictate their destiny. They let their decisions rule. They let their discipline lead. And when discipline meets purpose, something extraordinary happens. Momentum is born. Momentum is a quiet, invisible force. At first, it's fragile, like pushing a massive boulder uphill. It's slow, it's exhausting. But if you keep pushing, one day the boulder moves on its own. The weight that once felt impossible begins to carry you. That's when your habits become your allies. That's when the world begins to take notice. Success is not a lightning strike. It's a slow burn, 1,000 silent steps, 1,000 disciplined decisions. The crowd sees the explosion at the end, but not the spark that started it. And when momentum carries you forward, the world begins to change. But to reach that point, you must conquer the most dangerous enemy of all, not failure, but comfort. Comfort is seductive. It whispers in your ear, "You've done enough. Rest. Settle." It disguises itself as safety. It tells you that staying where you are is better than risking what could go wrong. But history has never remembered the comfortable. It remembers the resilient, the builders, the ones who chose growth over ease, vision over sleep, purpose over the lullaby of mediocrity. The greatest threat to your destiny is not failure. It is comfort. Failure sharpens you. Comfort dulls you. Failure pushes you forward. Comfort holds you still. Failure exposes your weaknesses so you can rebuild stronger. Comfort keeps your weaknesses hidden until they become your chains. Napoleon Hill wrote, "Every adversity, every failure, every heartache carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit." But most people run from adversity as if it were the enemy. The great ones, they chase it. They stand face to face with it. They understand that resilience isn't built in times of ease. It's forged in the fire of trials. Look at Abraham Lincoln. He lost elections. He lost business ventures. He lost the woman he loved. His life was a storm of heartbreak and failure, but he decided not to break, but to rise. He turned every wound into armor, and when history called, he was ready. Look at Henry Ford. When his first automotive company collapsed, the world mocked him. They said his vision was impossible. He didn't retreat into comfort. He adapted. He rebuilt. And from the ashes of failure, he created an empire. Resilience isn't just the ability to endure pain. It's the art of bending without breaking. It's learning to adapt when the world doesn't follow your script. Because no matter how precise your plan is, reality will test it. And when it does, your ability to adapt will decide whether your dream lives or dies. The oak tree is mighty, but snaps in a storm. The reed bends with the wind, and survives. The successful don't cling to a rigid path. They hold on to their purpose and adjust their sails when the wind shifts. Edison didn't follow one plan. He tried thousands. Each failure wasn't a defeat. It was a redirection. When life hits, the weak break because they expected the road to be smooth. The resilient rise because they expected storms. They understand that pain is not punishment. It's preparation. And this is where the masses are separated from the masters. The masses interpret failure as a sign to quit. The masters interpret failure as a teacher. Every setback carries a lesson written in fire. Only those who keep walking learn to read it. Think of Disney. He was told his ideas were foolish. He was rejected by banks over and over again. But he didn't see rejection as the end. He saw it as information, as refinement, as a test. And because he adapted, because he refused to let rejection define him, his vision became a reality that outlived him. Success demands flexibility of mind and iron of will. You must be soft enough to learn, but hard enough to endure. That balance, that dance between resilience and adaptability is what turns ordinary men and women into legends. And here's the paradox. The people who become unshakable are not the ones who never fell. They are the ones who fell 1,000 times and decided to rise 1,001. Each fall added another layer of strength, another ounce of wisdom, another level of power. Napoleon Hill observed this truth again and again while studying the titans of his age. Their triumphs were not clean. Their roads were not straight. They bled. They stumbled. They were humiliated. But they kept deciding again and again to get back up. That decision, repeated in the dark, far from applause, is what forged their destiny. Failure is not your enemy. It is your training ground. It is the mirror that reveals your weakness so you can build strength. It is the fire that burns away the illusions and leaves only what is real. Most people fear failure because they think it means something about their worth. But failure does not define your worth. Your response does. The truly unstoppable understand this. When you fall, the story isn't over. In fact, that's where the real story begins. And with every fall, you gather something priceless: wisdom, knowledge written not in ink, but in scars. Lessons no book can teach, no teacher can give. That's why those who fail deeply often rise higher than those who've never been tested. Resilience also demands one more thing: patience. In a world addicted to instant gratification, patience has become a superpower. Everyone wants the reward, but few are willing to endure the process. Seeds don't sprout overnight. Empires are not built in a season. The oak doesn't grow from a single drop of rain. Edison's light bulb didn't appear in a flash of luck. Ford's assembly line wasn't a single stroke of genius. Disney's kingdom wasn't built from one idea. It was years, decades of stubborn, relentless patience. Resilience isn't just about standing tall in the storm. It's about standing long enough to see the storm pass. And then there's another force, one that amplifies resilience, sharpens adaptability, and deepens strength: faith. Not the kind that waits passively, but the kind that walks boldly in darkness. The kind of faith Napoleon Hill called a burning desire backed by unwavering belief. Faith is the anchor in the storm. It's the unseen hand that pushes you forward when logic tells you to stop. Every great achiever had moments when nothing made sense, when the world said, give up. But they kept going, not because they saw the finish line, but because they believed it existed. This is the mindset that bends fate. This is the fire that cannot be extinguished. It is the inner oath that says, even if the world turns against me, I will not turn against myself. Resilience, adaptability, patience, and faith. This is the armor of a legend, not talent, not privilege, but an unbreakable spirit that refuses to surrender. And once your spirit becomes unshakable, something extraordinary happens. The world slowly, then suddenly, begins to bow. Opportunities appear where walls once stood. Allies gather. Luck seems to find you, but it isn't luck. It's alignment. The universe moves for the one who refuses to stop moving. But this journey isn't complete yet. There's a final element that transforms resilience into power. An element Hill spoke of again and again, the power of gratitude, growth, and learning. Gratitude is not weakness. It is not passive. It is not some soft, ornamental word reserved for quiet mornings and polite conversations. Gratitude is power. It is the invisible current that turns suffering into strength, obstacles into opportunities, and struggle into fuel. Napoleon Hill understood this well. In his studies of the world's greatest achievers, he discovered something extraordinary. Even in their darkest moments, they were grateful. Grateful not just for victories, but for the pain that shaped them. Grateful not just for applause, but for the silence in which their character was forged. Gratitude shifts your state from lack to power. When you complain, you give your power away. You focus on what's missing, and your mind becomes a mirror for scarcity. But when you choose gratitude deliberately, intensely, unshakably, you begin to see what's still possible. Gratitude opens the eyes of the warrior. It reveals the raw material hidden inside every storm. Lincoln was grateful for his defeats because they prepared him for the presidency. Ford was grateful for his bankruptcies because they made him relentless. Edison was grateful for his failures because they revealed what worked. And Disney, he was grateful for the doors that slammed shut because they forced him to build his own kingdom. Gratitude doesn't mean pretending the pain isn't real. It means recognizing that pain has a purpose. It means standing in the fire and saying, I will rise from this. Gratitude gives resilience a heartbeat. It reminds you that every challenge carries a seed, and that seed grows into something greater if you choose to water it with perspective. But gratitude alone is not enough. It is the soil. Growth is the tree, and growth demands learning. Hill believed and proved that those who stop learning start dying long before their last breath. Success belongs to the ones who remain students of life long after others have grown complacent. Look through history. The builders, the inventors, the leaders, the dreamers, they never stopped learning. Ford surrounded himself with people who knew more than he did. Edison lived in a laboratory of constant experimentation. Carnegie sought the minds of those sharper than him. And Napoleon Hill, he spent decades learning from the greatest, never assuming he knew it all. Pride closes the door to growth. Humility throws it wide open. The wise never say, "I've arrived." They say, "I'm still becoming." The world is in constant motion. Those who refuse to learn are buried beneath its tide. But those who adapt, who sharpen their mind like a blade each day, ride the current to places others only dream of. Learning isn't just found in books, though. Books are powerful. It's found in living, in paying attention to the world around you, in listening more than you speak, in observing, absorbing, refining. Every failure is a classroom. Every success is a textbook. Every day is a lesson if you're willing to learn. When you approach life as a student, the universe becomes your teacher. You stop reacting blindly and start responding intelligently. You stop repeating mistakes and start refining your path. You stop waiting for opportunities and start creating them. Gratitude and learning build something even deeper, evolution, not the slow, passive kind, but the deliberate, conscious evolution of a soul determined to rise. Hill believed the mind is not a fixed thing. It is a muscle, a forge, a battlefield, and a throne. It bends to the will of those who train it. And when you combine gratitude with relentless learning, something happens within you. You begin to outgrow your old self. The person who started the journey is not the same person who reaches the summit. Think of a blacksmith forging a blade. Each strike of the hammer, each spark, each moment in the fire shapes something sharper, stronger, more beautiful. That's what this journey does to you. Every hardship, every lesson, every moment of gratitude sharpens you into someone capable of holding the weight of greatness. Because greatness is heavy. People admire the crown, but ignore the weight. They admire the summit, but forget the climb. Only the ones who evolve can carry the destiny they're chasing. And here's the quiet truth that Hill knew well. True success isn't what you get. It's who you become. The fortune, the fame, the applause, they're echoes. The real treasure is the mind you forged, the soul you awakened, the power you unleashed. When you live in gratitude, you stop being a prisoner of what went wrong. You rise as a master of what's still possible. When you commit to learning, you stop fearing the unknown. You shape it. You sculpt it. You become the architect of your own becoming. And once a human being reaches that state, the state where they no longer need external permission to rise, they become unstoppable. Because the greatest force in this world is not an army. It is not technology. It is not wealth. The greatest force in this world is a human soul that has decided to evolve. Edison didn't wait for the world to believe in him. Ford didn't wait for permission. Disney didn't wait for perfect timing. Carnegie didn't wait for luck. They decided. They believed. They acted. They fell, they rose, they learned, they evolved, and so must you. This is the turning point, where the external world starts, bending to the will of the internal world. You no longer chase opportunity, you attract it. You no longer seek validation, you create value. You no longer ask, will it work? You declare, I will make it work. Gratitude makes you unshakable. Learning makes you unstoppable. Evolution makes you undeniable. And when these three forces merge with decision, belief, clarity, purpose, discipline, resilience, and adaptability, a human being is no longer merely alive. They are awake. The average live by chance. the extraordinary live by choice. And now the path leads to the final ascent where purpose transforms into legacy, where everything you've built within becomes something you give to the world. Because success, true success, is never just about what you achieve. It's about what you create for others. Because success, in its highest form, is not about what you take from the world. It is about what you leave behind. The titans Napoleon Hill studied didn't just build fortunes, they built foundations. Edison's light didn't just illuminate a room, it illuminated generations. Ford's automobiles didn't just move people, they moved humanity forward. Disney's imagination didn't just create entertainment, it created wonder. Carnegie didn't just accumulate wealth, he built libraries, funded learning, and planted seeds that would grow long after his heart stopped beating. Legacy is the ultimate expression of purpose. It's the echo of a decision that outlives the one who made it. It's proof that a single human soul can shift the trajectory of time itself. And here is the truth most ignore. Legacy does not begin when the world recognizes you. It begins the moment you decide to live for something greater than yourself. You don't need a throne to leave a mark. You don't need applause to build a legacy. You need a decision. You need conviction. You need the courage to rise, not just for yourself, but for others who will one day walk the path you've cleared. Every decision you make, every step you take, every moment you rise when it would be easier to fall, you're not just changing your life. You're shaping the lives of people you may never meet. Someone in the future may breathe easier because of a choice you make today. Someone may dream bigger because they watched you refuse to give up. That is legacy. Napoleon Hill called it the law of increasing returns. What you give to the world comes back multiplied. When you build something of value, whether it's a company, a movement, an idea, or simply a life lived with purpose, it expands far beyond your reach. Your impact becomes timeless. The ordinary chase success for themselves. The extraordinary build it for others. And here lies one of the deepest truths of all. Success without legacy is a moment. Success with legacy is immortality. The world remembers the names of those who gave more than they took. But behind every name carved in history, there was once an ordinary soul who made an extraordinary decision. A decision to rise, a decision to believe, a decision to act, a decision to give. When Lincoln wrote his words, when Edison lit the night, when Ford revolutionized movement, when Disney built worlds from his imagination, they didn't know their names would echo through time. They only knew they could not stand still. And neither can you. There is something within you, an idea, a vision, a fire that the world has not yet seen. And it's waiting for the moment you decide to stop being a spectator and become a creator. Waiting for the moment you choose to live deliberately. Waiting for the moment you say, "This is my time." That moment isn't someday. It isn't next year. It isn't when things get easier. It's now, because the future doesn't belong to the hesitant. It belongs to the decisive. The world doesn't reward the timid heart. It rewards the daring soul that steps forward while everyone else is frozen by doubt. Remember this: you are not defined by your past, nor are you limited by your present. You are shaped by your decisions. Every decision is a chisel carving your legacy out of the stone of time. The world will test you. It will doubt you. It will push back. But you are not here to shrink. You are here to expand, to rise, to create, to lead. And when the storm comes, because it will remember Napoleon Hill's timeless philosophy, every adversity carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. Turn your pain into power. Turn your setbacks into stepping stones. Turn your decisions into destiny, because one day someone will speak your name not with pity, not with doubt, but with respect. They will say you built something when others only dreamed. You rose when others fell. You believed when others laughed. That is the power of a decision. This is not the story of Edison or Ford, Disney, or Carnegie. This is your story. This is the fire that burns behind your ribs. This is the moment history bends its ear to hear what you will do next. You may not have all the answers. You may not have perfect timing. You may not even have support. But you have you, and that is enough to start. Success is not a destination. It is a state of mind. It begins not when the world believes in you, but when you decide to believe in yourself. So stand tall, decide, believe, act, learn, evolve, give, and build a legacy that whispers through time. This was the moment everything changed, because success doesn't begin with applause. It begins with a decision, and that decision begins now.